you talked about shooting, and as a sniper instructor, what were some of the biggest lessons that you've learned that translate well in the civilian world?
One of the biggest was to make bold adjustments. Everyone talks about, you kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, is trying to like shave seconds off of a run or something like that. Sometimes that sounds like incremental changes. And everyone talks about doing these incremental changes. Well, one of the things that I learned teaching sniper school and then going back to the platoon and helping guys resight in their guns and things like that, we oftentimes think of doing things in incremental movements. Like, well, guys will like, maybe their impacts are landing on the left side of the paper and they keep doing like 2 or 3 or 4 clicks on their optic and it just doesn't move. And they'll, turn back to me like, hey, my thing isn't moving. It's not adjusting. My bullets are just not moving towards the bullseye. And I'll come over and I'll just do these like really terrible, like just overdo the windage or whatever, the movement, the direction that they want to move their impacts. And they're like, dude, you just broke my gun. Like I'm going to be shooting off the paper on the other side. And I'm like, just do me a favor and go ahead and take a few shots. And what happens is their impacts move all the way across the paper, across the bullseye, but this time they're much closer to the bullseye than where they were. And had I not come over there and made these just incredible changes to their life, almost like doing the wrong thing, almost doing the opposite thing, then they're able to like make the minor adjustments to get actually into the bullseye. But I had to make these major adjustments, these bold adjustments to move the impacts across the paper. Then they can make the micro adjustments to put them back into the bullseye. I was on a call with a coaching client who's a coach for a hockey team. And he was talking about like the things that he was doing with his team, they seemed right. They seemed logical. They seemed like the conventional way of doing things. And I just told him to do like, you know what, take all that logic. What I want you to do is I want you to take your best players and I want you to bench them. And I want you to put your B and C team in there first. And then when he did that, it had such an impact on his A team players that they were like, what I feel like, cause they were choking going out the gate. They're like, they kind of felt entitled. Cause they're the senior guys or the best players, but they weren't playing like they were the best players. And so when I told him to put his junior players in, his less good players in, and those guys started winning, it motivated the other players. Like they dropped their entitlement, they dropped all that other stuff. It just leveled the whole team up to a higher level. I had him like, do things like they all, their hockey stick. I've never played hockey. I could barely ice skate, but I know that the concept of it. And they hold the stick a certain way. I'm like, you know what? In practice, have everyone hold the stick the wrong way. So if they're right-handed, hold it as if they're left-handed. The whole practice, for the whole week, you can only play left-handed. That doesn't make them better right-handed, but actually it does. Do the opposite of whatever you're doing. And so some of those lessons of making these bold adjustments in your life to your optic or whatever it is, if you want to make a real change in your life, do make bold adjustments. Don't just make these incremental minor adjustments because you're never going to get anywhere.
I feel a lot easier when you have a team with you. You're doing it together. You're all uncomfortable together. Now, what do you have for us that might not have a team, right? And we want to make a bold adjustment in our life and we go that way, but how do we stick with it and stick with the uncomfortable to know that it's the right or the better choice? I don't like to use the right, but the better choice for us to move in the direction we want to go.
I would argue that we all have a team. They might not be, like we show up together and go to work together, but we all have a team. We all have people that we have in our life. We surround ourselves with people. Everything is a relationship. Whether it's a romantic relationship or a family relationship or a friend relationship or business relationship, they're all relationships. So all those people that you allow in your life that you keep close to you, they're all part of your team. They may not be doing business with you or something else, but they're all part of your team and they're part of your support network. Go to those people and have them hold you accountable. Now, I would only do that with people that I trust. Kind of going back to the TED Talk where I talk about, I like to give, when I'm doing a briefing my plan of what I'm going to do, I like to bring in the haters, the naysayers, the people who don't believe in me. I like to bring them in because they're going to see a different perspective. They're going to see things that I'm blinded by because I can't see it. And they'll tell me why it's not going to work. I love that because I never would have known that or thought about that had they not been there, had they not been around, had they not given me that different perspective. I'm like, oh, that was awesome. Thank you so much for that input. So even the haters I like to have on my team, in the SEAL team, we like, even the most junior guy gets a vote. Come up with the most audacious, like ridiculous, like scenario that could go poorly for us. So, for example, my buddy Rob O'Neill, who killed bin Laden, he was talking one time about when they were planning that mission. He's like, the most junior guy on the team was like, hey, what happens if a helicopter crashes in the courtyard of the compound that we're going in? And they're like, that's never going to happen, but you know what? We should probably plan for that. And what happened? A helicopter crashed in the courtyard because the newest guy, the most unlikely scenario happened. They were able to handle that situation.
Segueing in, well, I'm going to say transitioning to this next part I wanted to ask you. Can you talk about why being vulnerable is a key to success?
Being vulnerable, it forces you to ask for help because I know me and I don't like to ask for help. I hate asking for help. And one of the things that I remember, it was, do you remember the app Clubhouse that came out right when the pandemic and all that other stuff? And they're like, this is the next thing, blah, 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 whatever. And so I was like, I'm trying to build a brand over here. I'm trying to figure stuff out. So I'll get on there. I got on there with a buddy and I got into a room and there was a psychologist or psychiatrist. I don't know the difference between the two. And I was like, I'll go. And I was like, you know what? I hate asking for help, but I'm sure I should probably do it more. And she was like, okay, well, let me ask you this question. How do you feel when other people ask you for help and then you provide them that help? I was like, oh, I feel like amazing. I love helping other people. And she was like, well, why are you robbing other people of that joy? And I was like, I can't talk to you anymore. You just hurt my feelings. But being vulnerable and asking other people for help, you're empowering your network. You're empowering other people, which actually helps you at the end of the day. It helps you become a better person, a better whatever it is that you're trying to do, because they may turn into someone that you can actually trust and actually go to in the future. And that's the only way that you can kind of test the waters. Now, I wouldn't go to someone who I wasn't sure if I trusted and like ask them for the moon, but I'm going to ask them for something that I think that they might be able to help me with. Let's see how that whole scenario goes. Can I ask them for something else? Is there something that I can do for them? And this is, really building the relationship, building the camaraderie, building the trust, building all those other things.